Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Today, for your news update, we're going to talk about how the U.S. have officially entered Israel's war with Iran, launching massive bunker-busting strikes on deep nuclear sites like Fordow, Natanz, and CNN reporters were on the ground as airstrikes rained down on Tehran. Meanwhile, Israel takes things to the next level by targeting Iran's infamous Evin Prison in a shocking twist because President Trump's secret Iran strike orders are exposed as a calculated bluff, no less. Now, back home, ICE detains a Marines vet wife while she's breastfeeding, and wealthy Americans are rushing and fleeing to New Zealand under a golden visa deal. So again, those are some of your top stories. I'm gonna give you guys a comprehensive breakdown on the nuclear evidence that we may have, the reason why President Trump has ignited this bomb strike against Iran. But nonetheless, let's get right into your top stories this morning. So the U.S. launched Operation Midnight Hammer, striking 3 Iranian nuclear and military sites, including Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, with bunker buster bombs early June 22nd. Marking America's direct entry into the conflict, experts warn that this escalation threatens global nonproliferation efforts and risks wider regional war. And the Pentagon reported severe damage while Iran condemned it as crossing a very big red line. I can understand this because supposedly and allegedly the U.S. as well as Israel doesn't have significant evidence to state that Iran was enriching uranium to create nuclear bombs, that all of their nuclear sites and or research and power plants are for civilian use of their energy grid. So there's been a lot of quote unquote intelligence experts who are now affiliated with the Trump administration trying to find evidence and or verifiable proof. They're reaching out to international partners of that. I forgot when they did that inspection in Iran to state if they're on the verge of trying to create a nuclear weapon. But again, I'll keep you guys updated with that as well. But this is very important because we have now entered the war with Iran. And Iran said they will retaliate, but of course, they're not going to tell people when and how they will be retaliating. But nonetheless, we're in this for the long haul, it seems to be. Now, there has been high-resolution satellite imagery reveals catered buildings and precise entry points confirming deep penetration bunker busters hit Iran's most fortified sites like Fordow among them. Experts highlight widespread destruction of surface infrastructure, though underground vaults may still hold nuclear materials. Now, the Ayatollah is monitoring for potential contamination of Natanz because, again, these are nuclear sites that could have radiation and residual fallout of emitting high gamma rays. So again, I want you guys to look at this quick graphic.
Forces launched airstrikes against Natanz, one of Iran's most important nuclear facilities. Satellite images showed multiple destroyed buildings at Natanz. We can only see damage at the surface level. Part of the facility is located several floors underground and can likely only be targeted by heavy bunker buster bombs that Israel doesn't have in its arsenal. The United Nations nuclear watchdog chief said that some above-ground uranium enrichment facilities and electrical infrastructure at Natanz were destroyed. The strikes also caused radiological and chemical contamination inside facilities at Natanz, though no leaks have been detected externally. Israel confirmed that it carried out strikes on other Iranian nuclear facilities, including Isfahan, which is home to 3 Chinese research reactors. Satellite imagery shows some destruction at the Isfahan facility. U.S. officials said Washington was not involved in Israel's offensive strikes. However, an official told Business Insider that American sea and land-based forces played a role in helping defend Israel from the Iranian retaliatory missile strikes. Israeli officials said the strikes on Friday aimed to degrade Iran's nuclear program in order to prevent the country from making a weapon. Tehran has said that its nuclear ambitions are civilian. Iran has retaliated by launching missiles and drones at Israel. The Israeli attack raises the risk of plunging the region into more violence and could derail the Trump administration's efforts to reach a new nuclear deal with Iran.
Now, people state that there will never be peace in the Middle East. because they're basing their comments and statements off of the Bible, that there'll never be peace in the Middle East, supposedly. And now that the American government, or America, the country, or Americans all together, we're in this war, whether we like it or not, hopefully that the retaliation of Iran doesn't reach U.S. borders, U.S. land. That's the most important thing. They may hit strategic targets that we have within the region. They may hit some of our allies in retaliation. Hopefully they don't attack America homeland. Now, supposedly they will never be able to penetrate our Iron Dome and our NATO defense missile systems and things of that nature. But nonetheless, they did state that they will retaliate, I also want to show you guys this feed here as well, because CNN's Fred Pagentin and his team documented intensified aerial activity over Tehran, intercepted missiles, nighttime anti-aircraft fire, proving Israel strikes are ongoing and visible from major urban areas. And the footage you guys are about to see here shows near empty streets and panic as residents brace for further attacks. As I told you guys many times before, even though these governments are at war with each other, and the reason why I said the government, because people like to incorporate the people, the innocent people of Iran, the innocent people of America, the innocent people of Israel are the ones who are going to suffer the most, unfortunately. Now, if this was to eradicate possible nuclear weapons from being made because we don't trust Iran, the world doesn't trust Iran, a lot of the Western countries have deemed Iran a terrorist state, and that they should not have the capabilities and or technology to create nuclear heads. Don't forget the broadcast that don't forget the broadcast on Friday where I told you guys that Russia President Vladimir Putin say that he will give them the technology to make nuclear bombs if America continues to interfere between the conflict between Israel and Iran. But nonetheless, let me guys show you this graphic.
Right here on the area sort of northern central Tehran. We actually went downstairs into a shelter once we heard planes overhead, and then we heard explosions. You can see now the sky over the northwest of Tehran is completely filled with smokes. It seemed to us as though it were several really, really strong impacts that took place. And if we look over to the left here, you can see the smoke seems to be emanating from that area. That's more towards the west of Iran, the sort of northwest of Tehran, of the Iranian capital. This is the first time since we've been here that we've seen a heavy airstrike like this in the fairly central part of the city. So we're only going to be able to be up here for not much longer, but this is definitely something that I wouldn't say is unprecedented, but it's definitely something that we haven't seen in the past couple of days. Coming, of course, exactly after the Trump administration struck those nuclear facilities, and the Iranians are vowing revenge for that. Of course, the Israelis also continuing their air campaign. And right now, as you can see, the skies over Tehran filled with thick black smoke. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Tehran.
Now, my advice for this gentleman here will
we know that obviously Hamas.
My advice for this gentleman here, CNN reporter in Tehran, is to evacuate immediately. Because one, we don't know any sort of U.S. assets, U.S. media. We don't know how Tehran may retaliate. They may capture and state that any of people who are affiliated with Israel and or U.S., I don't care if you're news media, humanitarian, you guys are now deemed as spies. You guys may deem as being involved in some sort of espionage. How did America have these exact coordinates? And of course, we have satellite imagery. We know we have detection equipment that can detect radiation to a certain degree. So again, they may use any information, any intel to capture and detain any U.S. personnel, any Israel personnel. So again, we don't know how they're going to respond to this. So if I'm any sort of U.S. media, I know you guys want to capture the stories on the ground, I will evacuate immediately. That's number one. Number two, he might want to wear a mask because, again, we're talking about bunker buster bombs. We're talking about all sorts of different chemicals and explosive and fragmentation. And that smoke is just not smoke from the bomb. That's dust and all the types of contaminants that's in the air. So he should be wearing a mask. And believe me, he was probably in a mile or 2 mile radius of that bomb. So he felt the shake. If you notice, he was panting very hard because, again, it's very scary. It's very scary. Being deployed to Iraq a couple of times and being close to a lot of mortar rounds incoming, but these are bunker bombs. So again, they shook the entire earth there. It almost felt probably like an earthquake to people who were within a mile or 2 miles of these areas like Isfahan and Fordow and Natanz, where these nuclear sites where they were enriching uranium, so to speak. But we're going to touch on some of them sites a little bit later as well. I want you to hear this response.
This is nothing new. Throughout the history of the Islamic Revolution, even before the revolution, and throughout Iran's history, we have repeatedly witnessed crimes committed by the Americans. In 1979, during the 8 years of the Sacred Defense, especially toward its final years, we witnessed their direct crimes. Each time they committed a crime, they received a decisive response, and this time will be no different.
So again, the Iranians are not scared. Okay, they're tired of Western powers. They're tired of America attacking them unprovoked. And a lot of people will state that the reason why we're in this war is because Israel has duped America. Israel has tricked America to joining them in this war. That this is another colonial mission for Israel to again gain and conquer land that is not their own. That's some of the reports are saying. Okay, that's not my conjecture. That's just conjecture of a lot of so-called critics that are commenting in social media as well as mass media. Okay, but nonetheless, I just want to give you guys that quick view. They're like, this has happened before, and we're going to retaliate just as well as we did back in the 1970s, early 80s. Okay, and a lot of people, and I stated this as well, that this is a head fake or this is some sort of diplomatic decoy that President Trump has pulled off. Okay, because President Trump ordered a strike which deemed as a strategic fiat a deliberate head fake to bluff Iran and media alike. He knew the media couldn't resist amplifying it, and the Iranians might think he was bluffing. Well, seemed as though everybody was wrong. The goal, buying time while maintaining plausible deniability and domestic MAGA pressures. Did he do this for Israel? Did he do this for America? Did he do this for his base? Or D, did he do it for all of the above? Now, as I was showing you guys this prior to about the prison, I do want to touch down on this because this morning, Israel bombed Evin Prison, which is a symbol of Iran's hardline judiciary system, and officials called it the most intense airstrike yet on Tehran. And video shows a massive obliterating the prison's gate. State media confirmed damage, though the complex remains under Iran's control. And me personally, we're now ramping up for wartime with Tehran, a population of 92 million, just as well as America did and other countries have in the past. I will go to a lot of those prisoners, unfortunately those who survive, and ask them, do they want to join any parts of our military to plus up the numbers? And once the war is over, the conflict is over, the danger is over, then we will either one, reduce your sentence or give you a clean bill of health and you can walk free, because you're going to risk your life for your country. We're going to come over with some of your sins. Now, not every prisoner may be afforded that opportunity, maybe the non-violent ones or the violent ones who've done some sort of assault or anything like that. But look for that to happen as well now that they're going after their prison. Because again, if you start destroying a country's prisons and the walls are down and the gates are open, what do you think prisoners are going to do? They're going to run free. So now you have these people who you deem they're not contributing to society, who are a danger to society, now released within the country. So you have your internal forces, like your police forces, trying to track these guys down while you are doing a two-headed war with America and Israel. So I wonder if that attack on that prison, was that strategic by Israel? Was this some sort of intelligent play by the intelligence agency of Mossad and told Israel to attack the prison or prisons? So yet there's only one prison so far, but I wonder, was this some sort of military strategy to have Tehran to implode while they attack them externally? Okay. I do want to touch on this story as well, because in Louisiana, ICE detained the wife of a veteran, Adria Caltra, during a routine appointment. She was still breastfeeding their infant, raising outrage among civilian right groups. The case has sparked heated debate online, with Reddit threads polarized over policy and due process. Now, I wonder if his wife has yet to get her citizenship, or was she always a citizen? But nonetheless, it seems as though that a lot of Americans, no matter your race, no matter your shade, you probably want to start walking around with your U.S. passport, because your U.S. passport deems you a U.S. citizen. Now, an ID card, your real ID card, that's not going to be significant for ICE agents. But if you pop out your passport while they're trying to detain you, like, I'm a U.S. citizen, oh, I'm pretty sure hands are going to be off. But if you're walking around with no documentation, this is something similar to what black people went through, talking about, where your freedom papers at, boy? Where your permission slip at? They used to have freedom papers where you couldn't, even though you were free, you couldn't walk freely down the street without somebody checking you. And here's the thing, back then they didn't have copier machines. They took your freedom papers and tore them up and then threw you on their plantation. But now they're doing that for people who they believe and or deem or suspect are illegal immigrants. Is this the right way to go? I wrestle with this because of the mass amount of people that we have in our country that is illegal, versus people who you deem are citizens, but yet have to walk around with papers saying they're free because they are a certain skin color. We're talking about those freedom papers after the Emancipation Proclamation, and even sometimes during freedom, because some people bought their freedom, some people worked off their freedom. But again, we have to look at this, unilaterally, so to speak. But it's very daunting. I would just give anyone the advice that if you're a U.S. citizen and you can be deemed in some form or fashion or be labeled as an illegal immigrant, walk around with a U.S. passport, just so you don't have to go through the detain, or unless you're trying to sue the U.S. government for millions of dollars for wrongful detainment. I know some people are just doing it. They're probably just walking around downtowns in Chicago, Atlanta, New York, California. They're walking everywhere just so ICE can detain them so they can sue the American government because they're U.S. citizens. I'm not giving you guys a come up. I'm just giving you, my thought process behind it. So Americans are fleeing America. Wow. We're talking about the wealthy of Americans. High net worth U.S. applicants have surged following New Zealand's April relaxation of its active investor plus visa. Investment threshold lowered, English test scrapped, and physical presence cut to just 3 weeks since April. 104 applicants, including 65 from Americans, have injected an estimated New Zealand $620 million into the economy. Because of all the decisions that the Trump administration is making, the conflicts that we're getting involved, whether it be the tariffs, the bombing of Iran, the differences in opinion of Canada and Greenland, all these different things that are going on at the same time, the wealthy of us said, you know what? I'm rich. I don't have to deal with this. Nearly everyone who's applying is applying because of the changes they're seeing under the Trump administration, said Stuart Nash, a former Labor Party minister who now runs Nash Kelly Global, an immigration and relocation consultancy. Under the new rules, 149 applied under the visas growth category, which requires a minimum $5 million investment over 3 years, and 40 applied under the balance category, which requires a minimum of $10 million investment over 5 years. And if you guys don't know anything about New Zealand is a very beautiful country, a very peaceful country, And you really hear no spats, no dilemmas, no conflicts, no controversy out of New Zealand. Everybody just knows that New Zealanders are really nice people. It's really peaceful there. It's beautiful there. They have great food. Everything is peachy keen. So the richest of us, they're flocking to New Zealand. And I hate to say it, I love this country of America. I never want to live everyone else, but I do understand. There's nothing wrong with having an alternative place to live, just in case. Just in case. But again, if America goes to war and other countries join Iran, like I stated before, let me guys show you very quickly. I don't know if you guys are familiar with some other countries that may get involved, especially if we have this going on. But we're talking about Iran, possibly Iraq, Yemen, some countries in Africa, North Korea, Russia, India, Turkey. We're talking about places, okay? We're talking about places that are indifferent or non-allies with America, but have relations and or ties with a lot of those countries I named, like India, Russia, Turkey, North Korea, etc. Because don't forget, Russia does business with North Korea, a lot of the African countries that a lot of the Western Europe colonizers wasn't doing business with Africa, but the Russians did. Think about Burkina Faso, right? Ibrahim Traoré went over to Russia. They're helping them build roads and infrastructure and energy and water. Think about their military force. A very small country nonetheless, but Russia is in multiple countries in Africa. And if Russia gets involved with this war with Iran, they're not just coming alone. They may have parts of India or parts of Indian military. Again, we have allies as well, but this is something that I do not want. When you start to have multiple countries against multiple countries, it's World War III. Now, people are deeming this as World War III already. Not yet. There is a war going on, but we're not at World War III just yet. In World War III that we're looking at, it may come in very different ways. It may be multiple countries against each other. It may be cyber attacks because we're in a new age of technology and AI and quantum computing, etc. So again, this World War III is not going to be those conventional wars that we're used to. Because don't forget, I even brought up on Friday as well as Saturday about having sleeper cells. There's a lot of Iranian Americans here. And again, I'm not saying that any of them are spies or sleeper cells, but it is a possibility. And I don't want police to go out and start to detain people, or the CIA or the NSA or Homeland Security. I'm not stating that, but it's a possibility. It's a huge possibility, okay? So, but these are some of the things I'm pretty sure our intelligence agency are looking at, maybe possible threats that we already have in the country. So that's something to, look at as well. But I do want to just give you guys a very quick breakdown of my thoughts on this. U.S. intelligence, including Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has stated that there is no definitive proof. There is no definitive proof. There is no definitive proof Iran is building a bomb, even as it enriches uranium. The head of the Ayatollah, Rafael Ghassa, confirmed the agency has found no evidence of any sustained weapons effort. So is this a weapons threat or a civilian program? Let's kind of go down the facts here, folks. I think it's important that we go down some of these facts. No proof of active weapons program, okay? And no proof of a systematic effort by Iran to build a bomb. Enrichment at 60% purity. Iran has stockpiled 409 kilograms of uranium enriched, 60%, just one step below weapons grade. Now, granted, there are still years away of enriching enough uranium to make a bomb. I digress. Capability versus intent. U.S. analysts say Iran has the technical capacity, but has not made the political decision to weaponize. Now, we do have ongoing inspections, but with limits. The IAEA inspectors have access to Natanz, Fordow, and others until Israel strikes begin. Iran has allowed environmental sampling and on-site checks, but it suspended additional protocol inspections and some access remains undefined. So at one point in time, Iran have given a lot of these Western nations and other nations within the region access to inspect their facilities, but then they started to kind of dial back a lot of their protocols and some restricting a lot of the access, kind of raised red flags and questions about their intentions of making nuclear weapons or not. Now, undeclared material history is important because past investigations uncovered undeclared sites and uranium traces, with Iran reportedly sanitizing these areas. Okay. Now, there's been a lot of things that has been unverified as well as uncertain, especially weaponization activities, because Israel alleges research into triggers and explosive initiation devices, but U.S. intel has confirmed this. Okay, U.S. intel has not confirmed this. And also a lot of what people are stating, undisclosed facilities. Iran may have covert sites where non-declared weaponization work occurs. And again, if you guys see this graphic on your screen here, they're stating that the power plant is here down here in the south in purple, and that the enrichment sites are two of the three sites that we hit, because we also hit Isfahan as well, which here on the dot says research and fuel production. Okay, one of their energy sites. And they also stated that with some sites that were unvisited, Iran could be hiding military grade work beyond the IAEA eyes, stating that they're hiding something. Okay. Now, I don't know if anyone ever talked about this just yet, but there are pros and cons of a U.S. strike. Now, the pros, we have delayed weaponization. A strike could set back uranium enrichment and disrupt operations at Natanz and Fordow. We're talking about signal strength. Supporting Israel may deter Iran and reassure U.S. allies in the volatile region. So this may push Iran back just a little bit. And there have been a lot of people coming out, not against Israel, but just questioning support, the unwarranted support that America has for Israel. Regardless of what Israel does or do, America's there to back them up. And a lot of people are now questioning that support. I think that's a good question. Preemptive security. If Iran secretly pursues a bomb, military actions might prevent a nuclear threshold. But here are the cons. No proof of weapons so far. Intelligence and inspectors report no active weapons program, making attack justified weak. Kind of did this during the Iraq war. Think about this. During Iraq or Iraq, however you want to pronounce it, I was on ground. Weapons of mass destructions. I was on ground. There were reports and mission statements stating that there was weapons of mass destruction. And again, I have to forego and say that, have I ever seen weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? At the current time, I can no longer answer questions of that nature. But now we are in Iran, and they're saying they have possibilities of creating weapons of mass destruction, but there's no proof of weapons. What about the diplomatic fallout? Strikes undermine diplomacy and could derail any attempt to revive the JCPOA or negotiations. We also may have regional escalation. Iran already launched missiles into Israel. U.S. involvement risks broader war with Hezbollah, proxies, or Gulf states. Because don't forget, all these so-called terrorist militias and terrorist states may join in with Iran. ISIS, Al-Qaeda may join in with Hezbollah, with Tehran. What about nuclear safety hazards? Strikes on enriched uranium facilities risk radiological release and chemical pollution. Something like hydrofluoric acid. What about that could occur as well? Reinforced resolve. Iran may respond by accelerating nuclear ambitions underground and halting inspections for good. So we'll never know what Iran is up to. But then again, they may have further issues with the world. Now, you see these three dots here on your screen. It says mining and processing. More than likely, the reason why this is important because they're probably mining uranium. Now, when we talk about the IAEA access, now before June 13th, the organization had access to most major sites and was conducting surveillance and environmental sampling. The agency is probing undeclared materials and sites even dating before 2003. Now, some access were denied and those questions still remain, but yet we have no proof of Iran making or trying to attempt to make nuclear warheads or nuclear bombs. Now, when we look at the post-strike situations, you know, the IAEA demands access to, they demand access to, they want access to a lot of facilities to assess the damages and locate uranium stockpiles, especially at Fordow. However, inspectors have halted during military operations. We're not going to let you inspect our facility as we're at war. Now, this is a lot to take in, folks, because is this moral, legal, and or strategic? Now, should America strike based on what could be and not what is proven? These are some of the questions I have. Is this the right thing to do? Should America have strike this? And I know half of people are going to say yes, and half of the people are going to say no. We've seen Iran's enrichment program teetering at near weapons grade at 60%. And there are some red flags hidden in facilities, but the IAEA and the U.S. intelligence still say no active bomb effort. We see no evidence. This is what the U.S. is saying. This is what the IAEA is saying. They're stating that we don't see any, we don't have any intelligence of them even attempting to make a bomb. A preemptive strike might delay, but it risks a lot of proliferation, galvanizing Iran's hairlining, destroying fragile diplomacy, and unleashing a regional wildfire. Because when all this is over, will Iran still let international inspectors come and inspect their facilities, or will they now start to make nuclear bombs? Before any boots or bombs are deployed, the world must ask a couple of questions. Have we exhausted oversight and verification? Have we exhausted that? I don't believe so. I don't believe we've exhausted oversight. Can we have more monitors on ground to ensure that you guys, can we get access to these other facilities? So have we exhausted oversight and verification? Can diplomacy and inspections be tightened? I believe so. Is the risk of misjudgment worth a nuclear rollback? Because again, don't forget, a reason why a lot of countries tend to deal with nuclear energy because it's cheap. You get a lot of energy made cheaply, and which helps the citizens of our nation. Don't forget, America, we have a couple of nuclear energy facilities that are in commission. And then we also have some that has been decommissioned. So I ask you guys these questions because I believe it's very important. Is Iran proven to build a nuke? No. Are they letting inspectors in? Partially, because key sites have been visited pre-strike, but Iran suspended enhanced inspection protocols. What's unknown or hidden? Now, the potential unknown sites, past undeclared materials, and suspended access to some areas raises questions and also raises those red flags. Pros of a strike, there could be pros of this strike that America has done. Immediate delay of trying to create a nuclear bomb, deterrence, and show of support for Israel, no less. But what are the cons? No legal, justifiable basis, regional backlash, ecological and political fallout, and possibly all-out war that could lead to World War III, with many countries going to war with one another. Diplomatic path viability, or diplomatic path viable. Yes, it's still there, but inspections need full access. political buy-in, and restored trust. Now, they said they will retaliate. I hope Iran does not retaliate. I know we can't expect any nation to be attacked and not retaliate, and saying that this is an act of war. Any country around the world can say death to America. Whatever that may be, that's an empty comment if no one backs it up. Do you think that Vietnam is happy with America? Do not forget the Vietnam War and the North one, by the way. Do you believe Japan is happy with America? There's a sentence of Japanese people still remember those 2 nuclear bombs we jumped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. This isn't just about bombs. This isn't just about bombs. It's about verification over violence. Without clear proof of intent, a military strike could escalate an inferno when the embers of peace still glow. Because before this strike, there was still an inroad, there was still a route, there was still a way that we could probably open up Iran to more inspections, tighter security measures, or inspectors on ground gaining access to a lot of these places that they didn't have access to before. And granted, I know we've been trying for years to get access, but this always should be the last result. Because let's think about something. How many people have been unalive? How many people have been tortured? How many people have been harmed because somebody thought something that was true? How many men and women got divorced? How many girlfriends and boyfriends broke up because you thought something about the other or your partner that was not true? I want you guys to think about that. Because if you make it personal, it makes more sense. Oh, you think the other person is cheating. We think Iran has capabilities and they're closing and they're trying to create a nuclear bomb. So let's bomb them. Let's stop them in their tracks. Your significant other thinks you're cheating. So they get a divorce or they break up with you. And you wasn't. I'm just thinking about it like that because the watchdogs, they want access to these sites. Watching, waiting, and verifying. This may not seem decisive, but is the only path that preserves credibility, peace, and potentially saves lives. It potentially saves lives. Lives of the Iranians, lives of the Israelites, lives of Americans. If Russia get involved, lives of the Russians. I don't think people are not looking at human capital. You think that these governments are just going back and forth bombing each other, that no innocent civilians will ever get harmed? Let me tell you, for a person who's been deployed a couple of times, innocent civilians, unfortunately, during war and conflict, always get harmed. And that war and strikes, unprovoked, shall always be the last measure that any country, whether you're powerful or not, should take before we have concrete evidence of the alleged by the Mossad as well as the CIA be verified evidence and have proof. Diplomacy shall always be your first and last decision, unless the intelligence has been verified and proof that this is the road they're taking and we stop them dead in their tracks. Other than that, we should continue to talk, open up doors, have more strict guidelines, have more monitoring and people who are analyzing the situation, people on ground who are inspecting some of the facilities, and be allowed to go into some of those facilities. Because the most important thing in this world are the people.